Welcome to the Slice Tennis Podcast. This is officially, unofficially our Christmas episode. Even though we don't have our Santa hats on, you best believe we are in the spirit. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you know I just announced yesterday that I am back in on Santa. I believe in Santa again after watching a Christmas movie. Feel free to ask me any more questions that you need to about that later. But before we talk about Santa, we gotta hit our tennis topics for the day. And we are going to have a great episode for you. First off, we got Felix. The Felix interview is in the back half of this episode. Y'all got to check it out. We talked to him before he headed out to, where was he headed to, Stephen?
Australia, Perth, Australia for the United Cup.
For the United Cup.
For us. It was sick.
Yes, shout out Felix for that. Then we got to talk about the NextGen ATP Finals because it seems like maybe they drug tested the wrong person mid-match. They got Mensick, but Joao Fonseca has taken the NextGen by storm. There's only two other 18-year-olds to win this tournament. We'll talk about who those two guys are later on, Auger-aliassime Center. And then we got to talk about Jenson Brooksby coming out about his autism. And then we'll throw it to the interview. And that'll be our show today. Steven, what's going on? How's the Christmas week? Christmas shopping going good?
Christmas shopping was actually done in November, JP.
Hey, and I forgot to mention, I already know why it was done in November, because of all that cash money you've been making on Betway, which is who this show is sponsored by. So shout out Betway for helping Steven with his Christmas shopping this year.
And should we talk about that? Should we get into the best bet of the day now?
Best bet, and then recap the week, or just go straight in
to the week?
Yeah.
The week was great. So my week was it was like my pre-Christmas travels up to where I'm from, which is kind of like in the mountains of British Columbia. We stayed with my family. We went up to a ski resort for 2 nights. So that was the only white Christmas I'm getting this year, because where I live, it barely snows, unfortunately. But we took our son Shepherd out. We were like walking around the snow. We had the dog up there. I had the full family man caravan. Like I had the box on top of the SUV, the dog in the trunk, a few bags in the front seat, and then my wife and the baby in the back seat. And we were like cruising over the Coquihalla. Fun fact, JP, the Coquihalla, this road, the highway between Vancouver and Kamloops in British Columbia, there's a show on the Discovery Channel, I believe, or the History Channel, one of the others. It's called Highway from Hell. And it's literally about that highway that I've driven like probably 100 times in my life. But we had winter tires on. We rocked it. It was easy.
Is Shep a snow baby? Does he like the snow?
Yeah, he likes everything, to be fair. So you can't really tell what he likes and doesn't like. He doesn't like being hungry. That's one thing. He'll like wake up and just gets after it. So yeah, we had a great week. Family, fun. As you mentioned, we interviewed Felix, so we're going to talk more about that. And yeah, I had some good luck with the ATP NextGen Finals as well, which we will also get to after we hear about your week, JP. How was that?
Yes, it was great. It was great. We've actually been super busy trying to get all my work done so we can get back to Greenville. We fly out tomorrow. A few of our other guys I work with, they already headed home, so we had to kind of pick up some slack for the guys that were traveling. So we've been running all over the place. But majority Christmas presents have been ordered. I know when people are listening to this, it might be Christmas Eve. There's a good chance I'll be in the store while y'all are listening to this, still trying to pick out the last couple gifts, which is a bad habit of mine. But my birthday is on Christmas, so I get a pass, and my gifts can be later than Christmas Day because it's my birthday. You can't expect me to buy all these gifts for you and give them to you on Christmas, which is my birthday. So
is this the first year you guys are married? Is she gonna give you a pass on Christmas if you don't have the goods?
I have a present for Sitting, and it is, I'm proud of this one because this is something she's gonna truly use for months and months and months on end. And I can't share it because she might listen to this before she opens it.
I hope she listens to this. Hi, Sitting.
Yes, but that was my week where we're excited to go home, and I probably would have had a better week had I bet with you on Betway which will bring us to our best bet of the day, presented by Betway. Steven has had an amazing run with Betway, but hit an ace with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses, plus 50 bonus spins no matter the result. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers only. Terms and conditions apply. Offer not available in Ontario. Must be 18 and up. Please play responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
Must be 18 and up. Luckily, Joao Fonseca will be able to do this.
That's right. That's right. I mean, what do I say? So I had it clipped, and I think I put it on Twitter. If you don't believe me, on X, go follow myself, Steven, and JP on X. And that was from last week. If you were watching then, I had an inkling. I said, I went down the list of the odds for the NextGen finals, and I said, Joao Fonseca, he's been dubbed as one of the next guys in tennis, like one of the next superstars. And I feel like tennis has a way of it's like creating storylines that almost like seem like predetermined. I don't know. Like it seems like a marketing gimmick that the big Federer and Nadal existed at the same time. And then Djokovic came in and they just had this like dance for like a decade of like driving shareholder value for the ATP tour and like the world of tennis. Like, it's like, how did that all coincide so perfectly? Now you get Alcaraz from Spain, great tennis nation. Sinner from Italy, great tennis nation. They're creating the future, their own future. And now we got Joao Fonseca from Brazil, great tennis nation as well. It's South America, and he comes out and wins the NextGen ATP final. So I said, I don't hate those odds at plus 1,200. And I followed up with it. I put $1 on that bet, and then I also put another $1 on him to beat the guy he beat in the second, or in the Van Ash in the semifinals, and he did that. So I rode with him the whole way, and it paid off big. As JP said, the only thing I should have done better was put more on it, but I try to bet responsibly. Bet the responsible way, which is our motto here. I only bet what I can lose, and right now I can't lose more than $1. But Joao Fonseca, what a player, what a tournament.
What a player, what a tournament. And it's just amazing. He was the 8 seed. And 8 seeds obviously are not supposed to win. Last ranked seed, I think we were looking at his stuff earlier. He's going to finish the year ranked at like 135 or 45. Started the year outside of the top 700.
Yeah.
And now look at him. I think he's made over $500,000 now after this tournament. So it's gonna be exciting. Maybe Fonseca will be the Djokovic. Obviously, he's a lot closer in age to Alcaraz, and or I guess not that much closer, but he'll be the Djokovic and the Sinner Alcaraz rivalry.
Yeah, you never know. There's as we'll touch base on with Felix, the interview we talked about. There's a lot of players who want to get in that group and be that, be part of the love triangle at the top of the ATP tour, and maybe Fonseca is going to be it. I don't know why I said love triangle. That kind of makes it weird. This isn't Challengers, that movie. But yeah, Fonseca, great call. I don't know. I feel like maybe I got a little lucky there. I was just like, I don't really know. But I did call on. I said when Sinner played here in 2019, he wasn't like the huge star at that point, but he kind of showed out. And I was like, this could remind me of that, because I've heard of Joao Fonseca for a while. Like if you look at his Instagram before this tournament, he had like, I think 100,000 plus followers. Like he's a well-known guy.
Yeah. That he won the US Open Juniors.
Yeah, he did. But he hadn't done really much on the ATP tour. And he did not have the same amount of like, oh my gosh, kind of like vibes from him as an 18-year-old as Alcaraz did. Like when Alcaraz was playing the NextGen finals, it was kind of like, to me, it was like a joke. Like I knew he was going to win from the beginning. Like he just killed everyone. And like, he's like, I'm not playing this tournament anymore. Even though I think he could have played like the next 2 years technically, but it would have been like, he's already winning majors. They're like, bro, you're not NextGen. It's like, you got to go home. But yeah, I just thought like these are similarities. So if you don't follow me on the Betway feed, you should. And now I'm just looking at the United Cup. They've got the odds there for the men's and the women's. They don't have outright winners, but they got all the match the match odds, including our guy Felix Auger-Aliassime as the favorite against Borna Coric as Canada takes on Croatia.
Let's go.
Nice.
Oh, Canada. Love it. Keep following Steven. So do we want to, should we break down give the people a little tease to the Felix interview if they haven't already watched it, or if they're about to watch it in the beginning? I personally, this was my first time meeting him. Steven has always spoken very highly of Felix, and he lived up to the exact words Steven has said. He couldn't have been nicer. He's doing it from Monaco, so it was late night when he was doing it, which already is like, man, this guy is one of the best tennis players in the world. He does not have to be taking the time right before a trip to Australia, a long plane ride to Australia.
Big flight, yeah.
And I mean, it spoke volumes about him just from there. But Steven, what were your thoughts? You've talked to him a few times.
Well, JP, I know that before you get into that, like you're a media guy. You love good lighting. You love good audio. Were you not impressed by how good he looked on his phone?
Hey, handsome guy.
Well, handsome guy. Yeah, he could look good on a potato, but like he had the phone set up with some good lighting. And he said he had to download the app that we use, and he did that. And he's like, yeah. So, I was like, oh man, he came on there. Some guys will come out like they're on they have no lighting. It's like a laptop that's not straight. You're like, this is basic. So he's obviously done it before. But yeah, if you guys were wondering about who's Felix like on the court, he's the furthest thing from a prima donna. Like he's a great guy. He remembered me from, we've done asked lots of questions, but we did an interview like 2 years ago. He remembered these little interactions we had. And those things just show, what type of guy he is. So yeah, no, the interview I thought went great. And he was pretty I think we asked questions that our audience wants to know. Like we had him on our list 2 weeks ago of like one of the worst seasons based on the capabilities of the player. So like there's no hiding it. Like we asked, how did you feel about your season? He was pretty forthcoming. Like it was a rocky year. Like he had some high moments like the Olympics and a couple others, but other than that, he's a little injured, but then he just played poorly. And yeah, he was open and honest. And he talked about chasing Alcaraz and center, kind of was vulnerable with that, which is cool. Cause a lot of these players, like pro athletes, will just kind of keep it bottled up. But I felt like showed a bit more vulnerability maybe in the off season than he would like pre-match or post-match, which was cool.
I think one big thing that stuck out to me about him, I feel like, because obviously he has had his struggles the last 2 years, and he's still finishing the year with like fine rankings compared to majority other people, but a lot of people, outsiders, had very high hopes for him. But you can tell he's got a good head on his shoulders because his perspective on the game, to me, seems very mature. He knows what's important in life, and he knows that tennis is very important, but it's not the most important thing. And I also can tell that he does appreciate and loves the process, and he understands it. Like he's one of the guys that you owe the process everything. The process owes you nothing. So that's why he's able to sleep well at night, because he's putting in all the work that he can, and the results eventually will come. And if they don't, he knows there's nothing else that he could do about it. So I thought that was cool because he's younger.
He is younger. Like people forget. I think he's still 23. Like he's not an old guy by any means. And he even said that he's like, I never saw myself getting married at like 22 or 23.
Right.
I guess he's 24 now actually, but is he 24? Yeah, he's 24. But he's still a young cat, and the results already have come. He's very successful, Davis Cup champion. One question that I wanted to ask, man, I'm kicking myself, is always, for those of you who are in media, I feel like this always happens. Like no matter how much you prepare, there's always a question you didn't ask. I was going to be like, Felix, you're widely known as one of the nicest guys on tour. Proof is that you're talking to us right now. But you've also got that dog in you, and I've seen it. At Paris 2022, you had one of the most iconic stare downs with a fan, giving them the shush all the way to the net. What brings that out in you? What's your thought process when a fan is heckling a guy like you on court? Like, I just would love to hear his thoughts on that, because he's like,
hey, well, that's a good question.
Dog out.
That's a good question that we can ask Dennis too, because he's super fiery.
That's right. He's like, maybe I don't keep it in ever, but
he's like, I do this all the time,
pulling the dog back in. But no, I would love to hear about that. Yeah, you were talking to the umpire in Rome and the entire crowd is booing you and you just tell them to F off. Like, what's going through your head there?
Legend.
Legend. I love
Oh
it.
yeah.
I would definitely be more like Dennis in those moments than I would like Felix, but that was one I missed. But we did ask a lot of the questions I wanted to know, including a couple of really funny ones from JP. So definitely check out the interview at the end of this podcast or go watch the video. If you're listening to this, go watch the video one. We have it separately on YouTube as well and on X, where he just retweeted it or reposted it on X,
Wow.
which is just another legendary move by our guy, Felix Auger-Aliassime.
And if you need any more reason to watch it, just know there is a chance. I'm not going to tell you what he said, how he responded, but there is a chance that I might be standing by his side at his wedding. You'll have to go see in the interview how that went down, how that question came up. If I brought it up, maybe he brought it up, but
you never know.
Yes, watch it and you'll find out.
Love it.
Now, I guess we already kind of hit on Joao.
Yeah.
So
let's touch back on it a little bit though, because I want to talk about kind of him as a player and kind of where his future's at.
Got you.
Like, yeah, like I actually didn't catch any of the NextGen finals. Like I didn't watch any of it. Just craziness. Kind of like I'm a bit on my holiday break right now. Did you watch any, JP?
No, just the clips that Tennis TV, shout out Tennis TV would post, on Twitter and everything. So I would just catch that.
Yeah, but he's he obviously goes through a very good field there, where he's one of the younger player, maybe the youngest player, and he's the lowest ranked player in the field. And there's a guy like Artur Fils, who's a great, like very well known,
right,
player on the tour, and he's probably a guy that was like, should I even go to this? Because I'm 20 years old. He's ranked. Let me just check here.
Yeah,
he is ranked currently 20 in the world. So like, he doesn't really need to be at that. He's not really next gen. He's like now gen, as they would call it. But he went there probably to be like, get some wins. Gets beaten by the 18-year-old. So these are the tournaments, like I was kind of alluding to earlier, where sometimes tennis, these storylines like match up with like the ideal. Like Joao Fonseca coming from Brazil, having the look about him. He's kind of a good-looking guy. He's got the charm, and he's got like a really developed game as far as his strokes go. Like his forehand is just super technically sound, and he's got the quick backhand. His backhand actually to me looks like Jack Draper's a lot, how he holds the racket, but also how he can like get it through his body quick. He can have his left leg out in an open stance and kind of like lunge into his backhand and hit it in a Djokovic way as well, like where you're attacking it as a counterpunch. And I think he's a bit of a bigger guy as well. Like he's not tiny. So I'd like to look that up actually. It'd be good to know. He's 6'1", 162 pounds. That's probably not true. But he's I don't know if he's actually that thin. That's what I mean. I feel like he's probably a little bit stronger than that. You never know when the last time maybe they get weighted at the beginning of the year and he's like 18, so he's growing. But
yeah, I would love to know how they get their height and weight.
Yeah, like is there a combine?
There's the way they have them like do like weigh-ins and stuff like at the beginning of the year. I wouldn't think, but like
yeah, like when were these taken? This is a good question we can put out. So maybe some of our fans know, they're very dialed in. Like, do you know when these measurements are taken, and should they? I believe they should be updated every year.
Because I mean, this kid, he could very well may go through a growth spurt.
Dude, he's 18. He could be 6'5" in 2 years, and which he would probably love, and the ATP Tour would love as well. So,
did you see the photo that he was showing Nadal at the tournament of him when he was a little kid with him?
With Nadal?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see that.
He's got to be maybe like 4 years old, and he's taking a photo next to Rafa, and I don't know where they are. Like Rafa has all this kind of like face paint on him. He's like they're at like some sort of like fair or something, but it's adorable. Like it's just young Joao with Nadal when he's like 4 years old. And I feel like every tennis player that's like 23 and under like has this photo with Nadal.
Yeah, or
they
the big
always
three,
show
like,
him.
Yeah. No, that's true. Like Shapovalov has that. Like I think when he was super young in Montreal, like he was like hitting with Federer or something, like when he was like 10 or like 11 or 12.
Sebastian Korda has it with Nadal.
Oh yeah.
So many of the guys have the photos.
Well, Nadal, another confirmed good guy. He'll always take a photo with the fans. And that's I think the great thing about tennis. Like some of these players, like through their families or whatever, have access to like more other, like, the Cordas, he could probably get a photo with backstage kind of with any player. But one of the great things about being a tennis fan is like anywhere, if the tour just comes to your area, like Rio, there's a decent tournament in Rio in Brazil. If you're in Montreal or Toronto in Canada, like the best players in the world that come to your city or at least your country, and you can go there and like get a photo with them, like quite not guaranteed, but you can get around and you can see them, and like you can meet your heroes. So then a lot of these players who like, oh, I was like a ball kid, and I was like, I got a photo with Nadal when I was 5, and now I've used that. I want to play against him, and I'll get like super good. Like that story's happened like multiple times, which is really cool.
So many times. I love it.
It's cool. But yeah, I'm impressed. Like, and he's a guy, like I was gonna say, on the ATP tour this year, he had like an insignificant year on the tour. Like he's ranked 145. As an 18-year-old, that's great progress. Like as you mentioned, last year or at the beginning of this year, he was ranked in the 600-700s.
Yeah.
So he got up to 145. He played the Challenger circuit mainly and grinded it out there. He won the Lexington Challenger. He won some. People are like, this guy's the next guy, but he's still 18. He's not rising as fast as like a Carlos Alcaraz. But stat is out there. Who are the other two 18-year-olds that won the NextGen Finals since its inception? Like, I think it's only been around for like 7 years. Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz both won it when they were 18. And now Joao Fonseca gets to be in that club. And I mean, if his career goes anything like theirs has over the next 2 years, like it's going to be scary.
It's funny because if to say that weight is real, obviously Sinner is taller than him, but the same kind of like slim type build. On the Nothing Major podcast, Stevie Johnson was talking about like the worst day of his life when he was playing a challenger against an 18 or like 17-year-old kid from Italy that was just a stick, and he wiped him. And he's like, why am I playing tennis? And his coaches were like, no, you got to understand, this Jannik Sinner kid is like legit. He's like, yeah, whatever. Like this kid, it could break if the ball hits him. And then, obviously fast forward, it's like, oh, maybe this wasn't a bad loss.
Yeah. And again, I just looked it up. They're showing Jannik Sinner, his height at 6'3", which is, I think, accurate. He could, I think he could be a little taller than that. Yeah. But they have him at 170, which I get. Like people, like I think it might be like an American thing. I don't want to dump, but like his arms do look skinny, but that's because he's lanky. Like he doesn't have huge pipes. He's not like that, but he's also not a weak guy anymore. Like I think he could out squat me or you, no problem. Like his legs are very strong. They don't look as thick, but it's deceptive. So I don't think there's any way that he's 170. I think he'd be close to like 180.
We could slow down on the squatting thing.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
You think you're gonna out squat the number one tennis player in the world?
I'll say this. I mean, don't get me wrong. My squat is like probably my worst lift. But these guys don't lift heavy, so like it wouldn't surprise me if an average guy could squat more than Sinner.
These guys don't lift heavy. I'm bookmarking that quote, and I'm just gonna be like, hey, Dennis, what do you think about this? Or like, hey, Federer, 2005, when I think these guys, I know what you mean. Like they do a lot more functional,
right? Like LeBron doesn't lift heavy.
No, I know. It doesn't really make sense to try and lift 400 pounds as like, anything other than like alignment or whatever. I don't know. Right. But like, there's a video. You can go look at it. I don't know. I think Sinner just posted on it on a reel or a thing of him like doing a big deadlift, and he looks like he's pulling some. I don't know if I could actually see the weights. It looked like he was trying really hard. So it could be like 100 pounds.
No weights in the video.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe no weights in the video, but I think I would put a bet. Maybe we can ask the followers or the audience, do you think JP Hovey of the Slice Tennis News could out squat Jannik Sinner of the number one player in the world? Okay. I mean, he's got some stumps. Like I'm not going to say JP's definitely not. You're on mute now. He's definitely not. He's not a skinny guy out there. He's not a thin guy. He's a well-proportioned athlete, as you can tell. He's definitely a more of an athlete than a technician now, accidentally muting himself. Maybe that's just the tennis. Maybe that's just the tennis god saying that you're talking smack. I think I should be able to unmute your mic here.
I'm good.
We're good. Okay. Maybe the tennis gods that were like, well, pause, JP. We're just gonna let you think about this for a second. But could
Hey,
JP Hovey out squat Yannick Sinner? Maybe we'll have to get this on camera, Yannick, if you're watching. Maybe it'll be
I do want to say I do think like Alcaraz could squat more than me because he's got a thicker lower body.
So you're saying Alcaraz could out squat Sinner?
Yeah.
Does he have a thicker lower body? He's also just shorter. Like short kings unite. I get it. He's 6 feet. Sinner, I think, is like 6'4".
It's hard for those tall guys to squat like that.
Is it? 'Cause yeah, and I'm not like a squat technician here. And trust me, I could not squat. You could out squat me like 3 times over probably. But Alcaraz is built up top. Like he's got the pipes. And like he's kind of thick in general, but he's still like in general not that thick. But yeah, I feel like we would see this would be a great. Maybe we could do our own series of like squatting the ATP tour. Like let's have JP Hovey go around and challenge these guys to the 3 big ones: deadlift, squat, and bench.
No deadlift for me.
No you got no back?
No back.
No back.
I'll bench with them. I'll squat with them, but I would land in the middle of the pack.
You land in the middle of the pack. And you're saying so there by default you're saying Sinner would land below the middle of the pack.
When it comes to strength, I think so.
Crazy town to me. But you may be right. We'll get him on the podcast and we'll ask him. But
he's like funny. Kevin Durant.
He's like Kevin Durant. Is Kevin Durant the snake? Is that what they call him? What's his nickname?
No, Kevin Durant is just like I think he's just KD.
KD, yeah, probably. He's skinny. He's 6'10" though, like or whatever. He's 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
That is funny. So that's crazy. So yeah, Joao Fonseca, maybe he could out squat you. I don't know. He's only 18, so he doesn't have that. Probably. He doesn't have that like man strength yet. But JP, what'd you think about this? Jenson Brooksby comes out. He's coming back to the tour. He's been out from injuries and also from unfortunately missing 3 doping tests, which just gives you a ban. Like I think it was like a year ban or something like that, which is crazy.
Yeah, 18 months. I think they had him at.
It's crazy. So, because he was one of the stars on tour, really, and one of the best American players coming up. 2021 U.S. Open, he was challenging Djokovic in the 3rd or 4th round there, giving him grief. And he just made an announcement, JP, that he has autism spectrum disorder, which I think was really awesome for him to kind of come out and say that. If he had been, fearing kind of announcing that,
right?
Yeah. What were your thoughts on that announcement and him coming out about that?
Yeah, I think good for him because probably the last 18 months of his life, he's legit just been sitting here probably thinking about everything and then overthinking stuff. And now I feel like he probably feels a huge weight lifted off his shoulders. Like, I finally get to come play. I'm finally healthy and I can let my autism out there and just move on with it all. Which is great. Yeah. And I read the article that they put out when he announced it and how, he's saying part of it is like a superpower of I'm able to lock in on specific moments way more in depth than like the average person. But at the same time, I can also get focused on the wrong thing and it can kind of spiral. So I think it would be cool because, it's always kind of like power in acknowledging that type of thing. And if he is able to use it to his benefit more than it hurts him, it's like he could return back to that top 30 where he kind of was, where he reached his ceiling. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I think he will get back there because he's super talented, right? Like there's like besides like the way he played tennis was so cool. Because it was super different than just a big serve, big forehand, smash and bash tennis, right? He's the guy who's like slow balling Djokovic through the middle of the court with forehand slices. And maybe that's what the autism helps with. Like autism, first of all, is nothing to be ashamed of. So, I hate that it causes people stress to come out about that.
Right.
And you can kind of see that he thought about the game differently than pretty much everyone else on tour. And I've channeled, I remember a couple of years ago when Jenson was doing his thing, I channeled Jenson Brooksby in a match where I was playing, where I was like, I don't have it today. Like, I'm not as good as the other player, but I'm just going to battle and I'm not losing this match. And I focused every point. I channeled Jenson and I ended up winning the match in like 3 sets. And it took like 3 hours and no one was watching. My wife's at home, like, where is he? And I was just winning this match. And I felt like so awesome. So I love the way he plays. And yeah, like a few people I've seen commented, like, he made this post and there's a couple comments that were like, bro, we already knew that. That's cool. And like you could see that, yeah, you know, and I think honestly, and a lot of people said like there's probably a bunch of other players on the tour who are like a little bit on the spectrum.
For sure.
It does help focus, I think, and be really like dialed into certain parts of your game. There's this golfer that I follow. He's like an Instagram golfer, and he's like, hey, I have autism, and that makes me be unbelievably good at golf. He's like well below scratch as a golfer. He's just like could be on the tour, but he's like, he can't compete, right? Like, just part of his condition doesn't allow him to, like, you know, he's very anxious when it comes to competition, but he just plays golf.
Right.
So, you know, it's a bit of a superpower in a way, if you think about it.
I mean, all of the outside of sports, it's like all of the people that have kind of changed the world, whether it be a lot of times in the like invention, the technology side of it, like they all pretty much they're on the spectrum of some sort with autism.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, shoot, I mean, I wish I'll take some of that if I could unlock a different part of my brain and lock in. But
yeah, maybe it'd make you a better tennis player. Maybe it'd make you squat bigger.
I know. Hey, if me and Sinner do this, I'm gonna be exhausting all options. And there's a few jokes.
Like, what, cross the ball? Will you be taking cross the ball before?
I'm just gonna be doing whatever Sinner was doing.
Big allegation. Should we touch on that right now? Should we touch on that a little bit? If you look on our Instagram, where we talk about Kyrgios, you know, kind of previewing a potential matchup at the Australian Open between him and Sinner, I gave my thoughts on that I think Sinner would wipe the court with him. That doesn't mean that I have any animosity to what I would love to see that matchup. I love when Kyrgios gets, you know, is a conductor for the crowd, especially in Australia. But he commented on that and he said, I should quote, because, you know, open invite, Nick. We'd love to have you on the
would
podcast.
Love to have you on.
Your thoughts, as we've invited you before. He said, and I quote, "So you like doping," basically, with a laughing face. And I said, "Are you officially accusing Sinner of doping?"
That was Steve that replied that, not me.
That was me that replied that. You know, we just want the answers. Come say it on the podcast. We'll discuss it. Yeah, there's a lot of allegations to what Sinner was doing or not doing, what Iga was doing or not doing, and now what Max Purcell, I don't know if you saw this, we're just kind of rambling here, what he was doing or not doing. But I guess he actually just admitted what he was doing, and he's the one who brought forward. He's like took too much vitamin through an IV, which is like not allowed. I didn't really know that you could take, like, this is how clueless I am. I didn't even know that you could like vitamin IV yourself, and that if you took too much, it would like performance enhance. Like, sign me up. I want to do that now.
Yeah, like Sitting her part-time job, like they do that for NFL athletes and a lot of other athletes. It's these bags full of different vitamins in like IV form. So it's like all part of the recovery process. Derrick Henry, all these dudes are doing it.
Do all these players, like, can you do that on the ATP tour? I guess you can, like during the season, like during tournaments, like you can. I guess I should look that up, but
right, for ATP, I'm not like, I obviously in the NFL they're doing it post game, midweek, whatever it is.
Right, and that, I'm sure that just really helps with, like, wouldn't that help with hydration, like systemic hydration? Like you can drink so much water, but like you need to have like the other electrolytes and
exactly.
I'm like perpetually dehydrated. That's probably why I can't squat that much, because I get back in there. Like, I get back in there after having a break, like having my kid. I go back there and I try and squat. Like, I'm warming up with the bar, and I'm like, my legs are already starting to seize. Like, this is a bad sign.
Or a good sign.
Is it a good sign? You're making gains with the bar?
Yeah, dude. With the bar, that's great. It's like, oh, perfect. I don't got to put anything else on here.